Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Happy to say I'm recovered from trade deadline day. Had to take it a little bit easy for part of the day, but feeling better now. Keith, that was a marathon. I didn't realize it. So for those of you who don't know this, and you can see the video on the YouTube channel. We went live during the trade deadline yesterday, and we reacted to all the trades that went down, and we went through everything. Fortunately, it was a very busy day. Otherwise, we might have been bored. I did not like, for some reason my brain didn't process how long we were on the air, so to speak, for.
Yeah,
But when we stopped the video, I went, "Oh my gosh, we were live for over 2 hours, breaking down everything going on with the trade deadline, and it flew by. That was a blast."
it did. It was so much fun. I'm with you. I think I fell into bed around like
Mhm.
1:30 last night because I stayed up. I watched that Suns Bucks game and then caught the end of Warriors Knicks. Which was that was crazy the way that one ended with the Knicks winning in Golden State of all things. There, but it was I I I was so tired that like normally like I need a little decompress time when I finally get ready. Like I was out and then like my wife had to be like, get up, like take our kid to school. Like I wasn't I didn't even like stir. Like I was out. So clearly I was worn down. Our plan was to come back and do like all right, let's take a breath. Let's do get some dinner, come back. We'll really with a little bit of pause, we'll really get into this because we had a ton of fun yesterday, but there wasn't a ton of like, all right, more nuanced analysis like we're going to hopefully give you today. But yeah, man, it was a blast. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Thanks to everybody who then went back and watched the show
Mhm.
after, despite its monumental length. Like that was a lot of fun. So yeah, it was great, man. I couldn't love it more. You guys are the best. We're up over 16K and subscribers now, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. But now we're ready to go. Let's revisit kind of the madness from not just yesterday, but like the last week or so of the trade deadline.
Absolutely. I am ready for it. I'll admit, I did not watch any NBA basketball last night. I need to cleanse my palate a little bit. I watched Peacemaker, and then and I crashed
How
out.
is it? I haven't watched it
Oh, it's
yet.
fantastic. It's
All right, I'm
fantastic.
gonna check it
I
out.
didn't care for the character much in Suicide Squad, but now I'm
Me
like
either.
I'm like dying for the next episode to come out each week. Like
All right,
I guess
perfect.
pun intended there. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. So definitely something you should check out.
All right, It's going to go on the All Star break list. I have books and movies and things on the All Star break. It's already like I need the All Star break to be 3 months long to accomplish all of it. So some of it, unfortunately, will fall to the summer list as well. But I'll try to work that one
All
out.
right.
All right, it would be completely disingenuous if we started anywhere but with the Simmons
Mm-hmm.
Harden trade. It's funny. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this one. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, watched a lot of shows. I try not to let those really influence my thinking. I tried more to make sure I'm not missing something from people who are, quite frankly, smarter and better than I am at this. But I I tend to think where I land, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, is I think Philly got better today and for the remainder of this season, without a doubt. Because I am looking at this trade as James Harden and Paul Millsap for Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, just for the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
season from the Philly side, because Ben Simmons was giving you zero. You weren't getting anything out of him. I've talked a lot about no production loss trades. This was the biggest no production loss trade you could ever imagine. So I think Philly got better. Are there issues? Sure. I don't know that they have enough shooting. I think their front court depth is a little weird. I worry about their defense more than I did prior to this trade, which seems a little odd. But I just think it's because of the major role
Mm-hmm.
Harden's going to play there. But I'm seeing some people act like they didn't get better. Like that's just bananas to me. I can't wrap my head around that. I mean, this is James Harden coming in, kind of replacing Seth Curry in a sense in the structure and framework of your team. So I just can't get there that Philly isn't better today than they were yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're absolutely better today. You're adding in a guy, and again, sacrificing just about nothing from Ben Simmons. Seth Curry is something. I think it's interesting that the Nets got Drummond, because guess who they're going to play against Embiid if the two sides meet up in the playoffs? Which, please, basketball gods, can that please happen?
Oh
Can
God,
that please
please.
happen? Nets versus 76ers in the
Yes.
playoffs? Let's figure out a way to make it so. But yeah, I think that the 76ers got much better. I will say this though. They gave up a lot. They gave up a
Yeah.
lot to do it, and
100%.
maybe they're looking at it as, okay, if we want to get him in the summer, which we do, we know. Look, Daryl Morey, he wants James Harden, he wants him to be on the team. If we want to get him in the summer, the things we're going to have to move, the assets we're going to have to give up in the summer in order to clear the cap space we need to sign him is going to be significant anyway. So we can
Yeah.
either trade significant stuff in the summer and get him then, or we can trade significant stuff and get him now.
Can I break in on that
Yeah.
for a second
Yep.
too? That was not as possible or as easy as people were making it out to be. There's not going to be an Oklahoma City out there this summer that's going to be sitting there just saying, yeah, all right, we'll take on 35 million at Tobias Harris. Was going to have to be done this year. And if you're Philly, I think then it's like, all right, we did it, but now we got to replace Tobias Harris too. Like that becomes a whole thing. So I just want to, I keep hearing that that's why Brooklyn jumped, because they were afraid. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think it more became it doesn't want to be, meaning Harden doesn't want to be here anymore, because clearly Simmons didn't want to be there anymore. So I really felt like that was all right, let's get this done kind of thing. That's my sense. I know there's been a couple pieces dropped in the last couple hours. I think Woj and Ramona Shelburne just dropped one. I have not had a chance to look at it. I'll dive into that a little later, and maybe I'll find out differently. But yeah, that's just kind of where my head is on that whole. We were going to clear space for him this summer. I don't know.
So just to kind of tie a bow on the Philly side of this, I think if they win a championship in the next year, 2 years, great. This that's then
Oh,
this is
yeah.
that's it, right? It's a win. The trade is a win, 100%. You win a championship, that's it. This is a massive success.
Flags fly forever.
Yep, exactly. It's a massive success. The danger, though, is in the extension. And we've heard, there have been conflicting reports. Oh, James Harden's going to opt into next year. I've also seen, no, he's actually going to opt out. That reporting was premature. He's going to get a new contract, whatever it is. Whenever the 76ers have to pay him and give him that contract, it's going to be the richest contract in NBA history. And it also is a high probability on the back end to be a bad contract. Now, who knows?
Sure.
Maybe James Harden figures out some way to, at age 37, still get the job done. Maybe, right? We don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a high probability.
I don't think he's going to age like LeBron.
No, I don't.
Something tells me that's not happening.
Yeah. So with that being the case, there is the chance that this turns into a negative if Philly is not able to get the job done and win a championship. But again, I fully understand why they did it. They have a much better chance right now of winning a championship than they did before. These are the kind of risks that you take. The back end of this could come back to haunt them. But again, you win a championship now, doesn't matter.
Yeah, completely with you. What it reminds me of one of those Major League Baseball contracts where it's 10 years long for a guy who's 28 years old.
Pujols.
No, yeah, Albert Pujols, like, right, yeah, exactly. Where the last few years are probably going to be kind of ugly, but you're paying then for the past performance at that point. And in the NBA, it kind of functions just differently because you can't front load contracts, overly front load, meaning I have a whole thing on the way I think they should change max contracts for players above a certain age, but that's an off-season thing. We'll get into little tease there when we need content, just because I think would be a cool way to reflect decline in production with decline in salary, but that's a whole other story. Let's flip to the Brooklyn side. So Brooklyn gets Ben Simmons. We're hearing he's going to travel with the team almost immediately. I don't know how to feel.
Is that gross?
Yeah.
Is that, maybe even gross is the wrong word.
Yeah. Part of me says yes. Part of me also says he's now out of the situation that may have been causing him those issues to begin with. I can only tell you myself, if I'm in a bad situation, move me out of it and my entire mindset changes. And maybe that's all it took. I don't know. All I can say is I sincerely hope That's what it
Yes.
is. If it's anything else, then yes, it's 100% gross, and that's, vilify him up and down. We've come too far on the mental health conversation
Mm-hmm.
in professional sports to, if this was just a ploy to do it that. But he's gonna be with the team right away. He's probably going to play soon-ish. Not my guess still is maybe end of the month, maybe a couple more weeks, or it's February, so it's shorter month by a few days. So that would probably be my guess. Patty Mills came out and said he's been talking to him regularly through all this stuff. Just if those who don't know, they're both Australian. They have a bond there, and Patty Mills has said that he is in good shape and he's good and he's ready to go. So good shape is different from being in NBA basketball shape. So he's got to probably get that ready. But my guess is we see him play sometime towards the end of the month. Maybe that's about when Kevin Durant gets back. A million people have posted it, so we won't run through it here. But the Nets' upcoming schedule is brutal. It is filled with really good teams, and unfortunately for the Nets, a handful of home games that Kyrie Irving cannot play in. And they've lost 10 in a row and are, free falling in the standings. So that's going to be something that's going to be, where are we going with that? But I think Ben Simmons on this team, Sam Vecini of The Athletic wrote a really good piece about this that I highly encourage everybody to check out. And it's been something I've been saying for a long time. I'm not saying my idea was brilliant and Sam stole it, because it's not that brilliant of an idea. But it's plug Ben Simmons into a Draymond Green-like role in an offense and watch him do his thing. And I think that's what you're going to get with the Nets. I think he's going to be much more of a 4 who can enhance his stars around him's kind of play than he is going to be anything else for this team. He's not going to be the primary, give him the ball, let him break down defenses, all that stuff. That'll happen naturally throughout the course of games, but I think that's going to be the role they play. I think it's been criminally underrated that they got Seth Curry in this. I mean, that's huge. That's another shooter. Now, how do you make Ben Simmons work? You surround him with shooting at all times. I mean, you got Kevin Durant. That guy just doesn't miss from anywhere. Then you got Kyrie, pretty good shooter. You got Seth Curry. You got Patty Mills. I'm not saying necessarily that's a 5-man unit that necessarily works, but we'll go. And then I think Andre Drummond will contribute. God, anybody who's watched the show for more than the last month knows I'm not a big Andre Drummond guy. But he's better than a lot of what the Nets have been rolling out there at the 5 position. So yeah, all around, I think they did good, and they got 2 first-round picks out of this that'll come their way eventually.
I think this was the best case scenario for the Brooklyn Nets. This was the best thing that could have happened once it was clear that James Harden wanted out, and he, there were rumblings behind the scenes, and then there were rumblings on the court when he goes out there and drops 4 points and doesn't shoot a free throw in his last appearance for the Nets, and then suddenly he's hurt, and maybe he's really hurt, or maybe he's hurt, right?
I will say some of the reports are he may miss another whole week.
So maybe it is
before he's able to play, which would take him out to the All-Star break and beyond. So he may not play for them till after the All-Star break, which then that would lead to he was really hurt. Just sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. But so if you're the Nets and it's looking more and more like James Harden is gone, he's going to leave. We've seen what James Harden looks like when he's done. We saw it in Houston. We were seeing that again in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And the Nets, you look at what they got. You look at what they got for James Harden, for this guy who is probably gone in a few months anyway. They could have lost him for nothing. Instead, you get a 25-year-old superstar level player. Some people, okay, maybe we put him all-star, whatever tier you want to put him in. When he's on the floor, he makes an impact. Yes, there's concerns about his shooting, but guess what? Like you just said, you can surround him with tons of shooters. Okay?
Yep.
He's still a very talented player. Defensively, he gives you things that the Nets don't have on the team. Now you bring in Seth Curry, which eases the pain of the Joe Harris injury, because that gives you even more shooting. You get Andre Drummond, who, again, we roll our eyes right to Andre Drummond, whatever, but he's another big body. You're probably going to need that big body come playoff time. He's at least somebody that can be in there that has the size physically to deal with some of the bigger centers in the NBA. And then you add picks to that. This is tremendous. I think if I'm trying to look at this objectively, I think the Nets won the trade, but the 76ers might be the team to win the championship. And that's, at the end of the day, what matters. But
Yeah, I think that's
But I
fair.
think the Nets won the trade in terms of what they got based on the leverage that they had with this guy potentially walking in a few months. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean this is great. Now, I will say two more things on this. I think and I'm going to do one for each side. The Ben Simmons basketball experience, if it can't work with this group in Brooklyn, I don't know how you make it work.
Mm-hmm.
That's we got to this has to work now. Otherwise, we got to have major questions about then he's now just a all defense role player. That's what he is, right? It's just that can occasionally make some plays in the passing game, and that's fine. That's not a $30 million
Mm-hmm.
player. That's a $10 million player. There's guys who have made good long careers out of that, but it is what it is. Now, I will say the other thing on the Philly side, just to jump back to one thing, they may end up being the worst watch of all
Oh,
teams.
yes. The free
They are going to
throws.
be free.
Oh
There's
my
going to be so many
God.
free throws
Because
in every
Embiid
game.
is the center version of James Harden in terms of
Yep.
the flopping to
Yeah.
get free throws and
And
all that.
flopping to get free throws, but also just drawing free throws legitimately as
Mm-hmm.
well, right? I mean, Embiid. I mean, he's the toughest big man cover in the
Mm-hmm.
league. Because he kind of does whatever he wants. That's all due respect to Nikola Jokic. He just doesn't play with that kind of force. He plays a different kind of game. Can play with force, but plays a different style of game usually. But then Harden, you know what he's going to do. Now especially a motivated Harden, and hopefully one that's healthier whenever he does play. So yeah, so we're going to get into a position where I think we're going to see, they may be in the bonus 5 minutes into games. Just with the way this goes, and it may turn into free throw shooting
Mm-hmm.
contests and everything else, and I can literally be like, God, I hate watching this team. These are the most, these are a slog, while also saying, boy, is it damn efficient and effective and wins games. Those two things can be true. It doesn't, and I'm going to preemptively say, you can miss me with any criticism of, oh, you just don't approve. It's not that. I just don't want to watch a free throw shooting
I don't want a
contest.
game to take
You
three
know?
and a half hours.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That as well. Yeah. I don't want to turn on a game at 7:30 Eastern and then shut it off at, midnight because we, took 55 free throws on one side of the floor. So, all right. So I think between that, what we said yesterday, I think we're good
Mm-hmm.
to kind of put a bow on the big one. So what I'm thinking here, I finally found the list. Let's kind of just go chronologically
Okay.
through the day here. So had this trade I'm about to hit next been the only thing we got yesterday, it still would have been kind of fun because it was a four-teamer. The rare, the like, we're going to talk about a unicorn later, but a rare unicorn of trades, the four-team trade. So the Milwaukee Bucks get Serge Ibaka. The Sacramento Kings get Dante DiVincenzo, Trey
Mm-hmm.
Lyles, and Josh Jackson. The LA Clippers get Rodney Hood, Semi Ojeleye, and the Detroit Pistons get Marvin Bagley the
Mm-hmm.
third. There was also, just because it's a little cap nerdery here on the front office show, the Kings and Clippers had to swap draft rights for two players because when you do a multi-team trade,
There's the touch rule.
each team has to touch. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
touch rule. You got to touch two of the other teams in there, and that was how they got by it because the Clippers hadn't said anything direct
Mm-hmm.
to the Kings. Kings hadn't said anything to the Clippers. So that's how you satisfy the touch rule. Was they swapped draft rights for two guys who, at this point, are probably unlikely to ever play in the NBA, but they're also not two guys that are in older than the two of us that they're still holding on to draft rights for. There are a handful of those. I think the place to start here is in terms of impact this season. It's probably the Bucks
Mm-hmm.
getting Ibaka. I can't imagine anywhere else. Um, I'm not sold this is the be all end all answer for Milwaukee. I think it's a good pickup. I think this is looks like a better pickup if Brook Lopez is coming back because then now you're three deep
Mm-hmm.
at the five, four ish if you want to say can close a whole bunch of games there. Doesn't happen as often as I think people think that happens, by the way. But and he didn't give up. He gave up Dante DiVincenzo because Hood and Ojale we'll get to in a second. That's not much. And they also got two. They got two second round picks, in the deal, and they got some cash, about three million from the Clippers to pay a large chunk of Ibaka's salary. So I don't hate it. I think this is kind of the little definition, or literal definition of it's fine.
It looked better before the Pat Connaughton injury.
Yes. Yeah. Great
It looked
point.
better before
Great
that.
point.
That
Yep.
losing Dante DiVincenzo hurts more now.
Yep.
So that is an issue. But
And what, just so everybody knows, in case you don't know, Pat Connaughton fractured the fourth metacarpal, which is basically a bone in his, like near his ring
mhm.
finger, in his right hand, his shooting hand. And we haven't heard any kind of timeline yet, but just a quick, look and looking at, some, I mean, we have these injury experts now on Twitter, real ones, not, random dude who's like, that looks like the time, I fell off the playground equipment. That said, that's a anywhere from a 6 to 10 week injury depending on the person. And so that
Mhm.
you're talking, if it's 10 weeks, you're at the the end of the regular season. Now you're going into the playoffs. 6 weeks, you got a couple weeks to find your rhythm again. So that's tough. So that's a really great point.
It
Good point by you.
it's Wes Matthews' time to shine. That's that's what it means.
Yeah.
But before that injury, I liked the trade in that it gives you another big body. I think you're going to need big bodies when you run up against
Hmm.
a Joel Embiid. But I also like the consistency that you've got because Serge Ibaka is another big that can step out behind the arc. So if
Yeah.
we're off nights for Brook Lopez, if he's not playing second night of a back to back, or even if you're just using Ibaka for foul purposes, whatever it is, you can play five out at all times. You can have bigs on the floor
Hmm.
and play five out, whether it's Bobby Portis, whether it's Serge Ibaka, whether it's Brook Lopez, doesn't matter. You can run your same system and not have to worry about altering things too much depending on, oh, okay, well, this big can only do this and this, so I can only do these things now. He gives you that consistency across the lineup. So I like that. I liked adding a big, but again, the Connaughton injury is kind of a gut punch after you just traded DiVincenzo, who would have got those minutes.
Yeah, and a little tidbit here that has come out since the Bucks reached out to Marc Gasol and asked if he was interested in
Who?
coming back over to finish out the year, and apparently that didn't go very far. And now clearly that probably won't go anywhere as they've made that
Mm-hmm.
move. Bucks are still, they're sitting, if you take Greg Monroe's 10 day out of the mix, they're sitting on 3 open roster spots, which is that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So let's see what happens there as well, because my guess is they're gonna have to figure something out there eventually with something. So yeah. Let's go to the next side of this trade. We'll just go to the
Yeah.
Kings because I think that's probably it. So DiVincenzo, they got their man.
Mm-hmm.
A year after tampering charges said
Oops.
no, you can't have him. I like that pickup for the
Mm-hmm.
Kings. I think that's let let me rephrase. Let me put a caveat on this. I like that pickup for the Kings, minus they don't give him some insane contract this summer as a free agent because he's a restricted free agent. If they go really stupid, then why? You're just painting yourself into a corner. But if you can get him on a reasonable number, if you can get him on, he looks good enough, and you can get him for something that's mid-level ish starting salary, I think that's pretty good. I think you've done well there if you're the Kings. Grayson Allen kind of money, which is odd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Grayson Allen's kind of took his job in Milwaukee, and let the Bucks feel good about trading him. So yeah, so I like that one. Trey Lyles, okay. Kings have a lot of bigs that they can sort through. Trey Lyles isn't bad. And then Josh Jackson, we'll see. I think he helps a little bit the rest of this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're shy on wings in Sacramento, and he can at least score some points on the second unit. But this was about getting DiVincenzo, really.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. He's a guy they've been after for a while, and
Hmm.
I mean he may end up being a good fit. You just lost Tyrese Halliburton, so you plug DiVincenzo in there into that mix into their guard rotation, and sure, look, if he's a guy that they really like, he's young. If again, depending on what the contract looks like, look, Marvin Bagley, it was very clear it wasn't working out. He's been kind of a buy low guy for quite a while in my mind, where he just needed a change of scenery. The Kings weren't going to get much in return. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think this is a bad return for Marvin Bagley. Obviously, his value dropped a ton from when they when they drafted him,
Sure.
but based on where they're at right now, what Marvin Bagley's value is today, this is just fine.
Yeah, and all right, so want to go
Yeah,
there
let's go there.
next to all right, let's go to Marvin Bagley. Pistons pick him up. Now, what's interesting with Marvin Bagley, we one of our early topics as we went to a near daily format on the show was about how Marvin Bagley, the Kings told him you're not going to play, and then his agent basically, burned the
Mm-hmm.
bridges and buried the ashes and set him out to sea or whatever we want to say. He was like, "We're done with you then." But since then, in and out of the rotation. But over the last month and a half, he's been more or less a rotation guy and has played kind of okay for the Kings. Now, this is where the part of the podcast and YouTube show when everybody says showcasing, they were showcasing him. I can't really argue
Mm-hmm.
against it. I think that's probably true, but you can only showcase a guy if he plays well, because otherwise it's not going
You're
to
better
help
off
you at
hiding him.
all. Yeah, exactly. Then you're better off. No, he's really good. You should see what he's doing in practice to our guys. And then it's like, but you're the Kings. Why wouldn't you play him? But anyway, he's been playing okay. So now if you're the Pistons, you get a look. Um, Kind of a fun thing is he's probably going to miss starter criteria this year,
Mm.
which means his qualifying offer will lower. So you won't feel as bad about giving him that qualifying offer if you're the Pistons, because this is the rare guy. It may make a lot of sense if he gets the qualifying offer to just sign it, because that may turn into, hey, I'll be here for another year. And I don't know if the Pistons would mind that. Or if he looks good, maybe he and the Pistons come to agreement on, hey, let's sign you for a couple years and, see what it looks like. 7-8 million a year if he looks pretty good. So if you're the Pistons, this is the kind of very super low cost flyer you should be taking right now. Especially right. You didn't trade Jeremy Grant, but that's fine. Just get Bagley and see what he looks like. Because man, there's got to be a player in there somewhere. Guys don't get drafted second overall because they stink, right? And we've seen him show flashes at times. I'm not. I mean, I'm not going to go risk my life on betting on Marvin Bagley showing up, but maybe
Um,
I can see you
well,
disagree.
no, I mean in terms of guy, Hashim Thabit might argue
Oh,
otherwise, but that's cherry picking one particular play. Yes, I agree. I think
Michael
yeah,
Candy,
sure,
Purvis Ellison,
right.
sure.
Yeah, we can go
Hey,
from
welcome to Let's Talk About Draft
let's
Bus
go
the
into
next
draft. Well,
month.
that was the second overall pick thing that got me there,
Yeah.
but I think this is exactly the type of second, we call it a second draft type of player
Yep.
that
Yep.
the Pistons, they've been long connected to Marvin Bagley. This has been in the rumor
Yeah.
mill for a while. This is the
Yeah, for
exact
a
kind of
while.
gamble that you take when you're a team that isn't worried about winning right now. This is the kind of gamble that you take because it is a high risk, very low, or I'm sorry, high reward, very low risk type
Yeah.
move. What did you sacrifice? Josh Jackson, okay, he was something at one point. That didn't, he's kind of a second draft. He was what, on his fourth team or whatever it was by the time he got to Detroit.
Something like that. Yeah. Yep.
So you kind of knew what you had there, but he's another guy that you took a gamble on. Trey Lyles, did you really lose a lot in a second round pick to get a look at Marvin Bagley and find out? Maybe it is just the scenery. Maybe it is the Kings. Maybe the Kings are
Yeah.
the Adam Gase of the NFL, where all you got to do is get away from him and suddenly you look good. I don't know, but it's
Could
it's
be.
worth finding out. It's worth
Yeah.
finding out for the Pistons, so I
Yep.
like this move a lot for them.
Yep. Clipper side of this is super easy. Serge Ibaka really didn't have a role left there. They basically roll with Ivica Zubac as their starter when he's available. Isaiah Hartenstein had essentially taken the backup 5 role. Ibaka, I believe, was only playing when he was to kind of show, hey, he can still move, he can
Mm-hmm.
still play a little bit there. So really, he was out of the picture. Hood and Ojale, they may not even stick
Yeah.
there. They may both end up getting waived. We'll see. And if they do, I mean, okay, maybe one of them shows a little something, but the Clippers have a bunch of wings now, a bunch of similarly sized guys to those two that I think they like more. Guys like Morris, Batum, Powell, Mann, Kennard, Coffee,
Mm-hmm.
Covington, Brendan Boston. Like
Tons.
it's that, yeah, this was, hey, get off a little bit of money and, good for their owner. Well, good for their front office, kind of helping out poor Steve Ballmer there, lowering his luxury tax check that he has to write. All right, moving on. That one took a little longer because there was 4 teams. All right, next one that broke in the morning yesterday. I think it was in the morning, late morning. Raptors trading Goran Dragic and a first-round pick that's lottery protected to the San Antonio Spurs for Thaddeus Young and Drew Eubanks, and a second-round pick in this coming draft. So there's been a lot of, wow, they gave up a first-round pick. They really moved back about 10 spots in the draft. And I think this might have been something, maybe when we first got the news on this, we didn't know all the details as we were reacting to it. So this is, I'll steal Trevor's PSA here. It's important to wait for the details before you fully react to things, but we would never do that. So Dragic will be bought out by the Spurs, widely reported. So basically they got to move, they moved up in the draft about 10 picks to eat $5 million. That's essentially what happened here. From their side. So their side's super easy. The Raptors, though, they're going to keep Thad Young. They waived Drew Eubanks. So essentially they got Thad Young, saved $5 million for sliding back about 10 spots in the draft, likely. I don't hate it for the Raptors. Let's see how much Thad Young has left. He was pretty good last year. Hasn't done anything this year. He's been kind of in mothballs all year, but he's competing with Precious Achiuwa, Chris Boucher as a backup big for the Raptors. It's okay. I think he's probably better than those guys and can help Toronto, who's clearly not going away in this playoff race. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, this is a fine move. Now, the Raptors were rumored to be in a 3-team deal with the Knicks and the Lakers that would have landed them Nerlens Noel. From what I've heard, basically that just got stuck at the draft picks. They couldn't come to terms on that. Yeah. And with that falling apart, this is just fine. You save a little bit of money. You pick up a guy who can help you, and you don't have to take that big of a hit. I mean, there's a decent chance. I wouldn't say it's most likely going to happen, because otherwise this trade wouldn't have happened. But there is the possibility that with whoever the Raptors get 10 picks later in the draft, because there's no certainty in the draft, could wind up being better than whoever the Spurs get when they pick.
Especially for the Raptors, right? I mean, this team mines, late draft picks better than just about anybody else in the NBA. I mean, you look at a lot of what the guys they have in their lineup were drafted, fairly late. So yeah, this is too. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And Thad Young expires at the end of the year, probably retires or signs veteran minimums, and you move on. So yeah, I mean, I think the Raptors did well here. Dragic, let's see where he goes. As a buyout guy, because we would have, I think, all said
change the Mavs,
but the Dinwiddie, we're going to get into that in a minute. Where I think he's going to go back to Miami.
Yep,
like it just makes sense, right? I mean, and now if anybody's wondering why he can, it's because now he's gone to a third team. After the Heat traded him in the sign and trade, if the Raptors bought him out, he couldn't go there, but because now he's gone to the Spurs. The Spurs buy him out, he can go back to Miami. That would just make sense. And that'd be a good get for the Heat. I like Gabe Vincent. He's done okay as a backup point guard, but it's Goran Dragic, right? He's better than Gabe Vincent. As an aside on that, I really would hope the Celtics would try to pitch him. It's coming in and playing backup point guard for them, because they've got, we're going to start getting into their day. They've got, now 3 roster spots to fill, because they've filled a couple already, which is just bonkers stuff there. Part of that is because they traded away PJ Dozier and Bol with a future second-round pick for a future second-round pick. That future second-round pick they're getting from the Orlando Magic will never come their way. The Magic ate these 2 deals. They waived Michael Carter-Williams and each one more to make this happen. 2 guards who've been out with injuries all season long. For the Magic to take in 2 injured players, they also waived PJ Dozier already. Sounds like they're going to hang on to Bol. Let's make the joke. Well, yeah, it's because he's super tall with really long wingspan. So of course, Magic. Them. Somebody in my mention said, the Magic now have acquired future combo guard Bol, and that made me laugh really hard. I thought that was good, but I mean, this is just business. This is just a strictly financial thing, which freed up the Celtics to do their next couple of moves, which was Derek White going into Boston for Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, a protected 2022 first-round pick, and then swap rights on their 2028 first round pick, which has a little interesting caveat to it. Boston keeps it if it's number 1. Any other pick, the Spurs can swap for it.
So
It's I won't do the whole, we don't even know if there'll be a planet in 20, but it's that's out there, right? That was kind of, I think, the sweetener into it. Now, here's my, so Ray, you're not a Celtics guy. So I'm going to ask you, because I really am very, very curious. Did Boston give up too much in this trade?
My initial thought was it was too much. The first round pick was too much. That was my initial thought. But then when I started looking at this, and I started thinking about, could Derek White be, and I told you this when we were live yesterday, that I thought the first was a bit too much. When I'm looking at Derek White, can he be the connecting piece between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown that maybe hasn't quite been there? Can he fill that role? Because if he can, then his impact could be greater than, we talk about greater than some of their parts teams. He could have an impact greater than just his own individual talent. He's a talented player, but in terms of connecting everything together, he might be the piece that kind of brings everything to a more cohesive spot for the Celtics. And so I think it's a worthwhile gamble. Now, again, my initial reaction was, the first round pick, that's a little bit tough. But looking at what he can do for them, and then defensively, having him with Marcus Smart, I think it's a worthwhile gamble for the Celtics. The pick swap, I'm always hesitant to put a lot of value on those, because that could be nothing. And Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are both young. Who knows what the Spurs are going to look like? Who knows what the Celtics will look like in 2028? It's a total. It could be. Maybe it's the number 2 pick. It could be the number 2 pick, and the Spurs have the 30th pick, and it winds up being a huge deal. It might be, but it could also be absolutely. It could be literally 0.
It's funny that you said it could be nothing, followed by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, because that's exactly how the Celtics got Jason Tatum, was by exercising a swap with the Nets. Then ultimately they traded that pick to Philly, who took Fultz, and then Ball went to the Lakers, and Tatum ended up 3rd, which is, of all the moves Danny Ainge made, that was the single best, I think, move he ever made. And talk about ballsy, saying the guy I want is going to be there at 3. Right. Because the Lakers could have really screwed that up for them. Now, I think we all knew they were taking Lonzo for a million different reasons, but whatever. That's a whole other thing. I think a couple things that are being missed, and I liked your point on this. One is, a lot of people are talking about Celtics gave up shooting with Josh Richardson. Yes, Josh Richardson is shooting 40% from 3 this year. Josh Richardson is not a 40% from 3 shooter. And those are 2 different things. They're 2 very different things.
I think Derek White is also not a 31% from 3 shooter.
Correct.
I think that's yes. I think that it looks bad at first, but I don't think those are really, I don't think that's really accurate.
I think they're both 35 to 36% 3-point shooters. Like, that's where I think ultimately land. Is that great? No, it's not great, but it's passable. I think Derek White is a better on-ball playmaker than Josh Richardson, and as far as playmaking for others, which has been a problem at times for this team, that has changed as they've really, since he's come back from COVID, they've said, all right, Marcus, you're a point guard. You you run this machine. And that has helped. Now having another guy who can do that. I can tell you, I am beyond excited to watch a lineup of Robert Williams, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Derek White. Because I don't know how you score on that group. I mean, that is crazy, right? There's the Celtics starting 5 with Al Horford in there instead of Derek White in that case has been tremendous defensively. So hey, you added just another guy who's just another plus defender in Derek White. The Langford loss is an admission of it was a draft mistake. It wasn't good. I could go on an hour-long rant that I'm not going to about how that pick and the Aaron Nesmith picks never should have been made because they should have been traded to cash in for other things. But I'll leave that there. Adding the first-round pick, all right. Adding the swap, that probably is too much. That may tilt it a little bit. But as we kind of talked about before, if you get back into the East Finals, you go to a finals, never mind win a championship, no one's going to care at all about those things. And I'm not saying that's what this move did, but it could help just in the Celtics uniform. What it also does is now, if we assume Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are off the table in trade talks which sounds like they were never, Brad Stevens wasn't even listening to offers for them.
Mm-hmm.
These are the contracts Boston can put in trades now. 17 million. This is talking this offseason. 17 million for Marcus Smart, 16.4 million for Derek White, 10.7 million for Robert Williams, 4 million for Grant Williams, 8.7 million for Daniel Tice. We'll get into that in a second. Peyton Pritchard and Aaron Nesmith combined are about 6 million. Al Horford anywhere between 14.5 million and 26.5 million. What the Celtics have done without sending back truly horrendous contracts and put themselves in the position now, if Bradley Beal wants out, if things go south for Zach LaVine and he wants, you know what, it's not going to work in Chicago, they're now in the mix that they can say, hey, we can match salary in just about any combination you want without having to send a bunch of guys who can't play. Right? There's not a massive John Wall type size contracts in there where it's like, hey, you want this? And the other team's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are all guys who can play. Some of them maybe a little overpaid, sure, but a little overpaid can be supplemented with here's a draft pick. Now they're a little shy on that, maybe. We'll see. But you know, there's things you can do. So I think this is a good trade in the immediate. I think it's a really good trade when you think about what could be to come later.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's the opposite situation that the Lakers were in. The Lakers were in the situation where, hey, do you want Taylor Horton Tucker? No? Okay, then we're done. We don't have anything, right?
That's
in the Celtics, it's, oh, you're not a big fan of Derek White? Okay, can I interest you in player A, B, C, D? And we've got all these other guys that can make this work. And that just increases the ability to go out there and deal in addition to the on-court fit, which we said is pretty good. The Daniel Tice move for the Celtics, I thought...
Yeah, let's go to that one next. It's not next chronologically, but it makes sense.
I was surprised they didn't get something with him. Yeah. I thought they took on a lot of salary there that I don't think Houston really wanted. I thought they were going to have to pay somebody to get off that salary. Now the player, because we've talked a lot about separating the player from the contract, the player, that's fine. I think they're very comfortable with him. He's comfortable there. He's going to be a solid fit. No problems there. I just think they should have got something for taking on the deal because I don't think Houston wanted it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's exactly it. They were not going to be interested in doing much there. So yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Now too, I think the Celtics are in a position where what they can do is say, let's sit Al Horford on a night. Robert Williams, unfortunately, he's had multitude of injury issues. If he's feeling anything, you can say, hey, go sit, because then what you can do is put Tyson there, and I think you feel good. There's a drop-off for sure. I'm not saying he's that good, but he knows the system they want to run. He knows how to switch defenses. He can shoot with range. You get a lot of stuff there where I think you feel pretty good about putting him in there. But yeah, I mean, they took on, money, not really money this year per se, because they shed Dennis Schroeder, they shed Ennis Freedom and Bruno Fernando in the deal. We don't talk about Bruno, but it is it's the long-term money with Tice. It's a couple more years of salary, right around $9 million a year. So not great, but let's see where that goes. At least if nothing else, it's a contract he can throw in for salary matching. The loss of Schroeder, we'll see, right? We'll see, what it looks like with this, so let's see, what kind of comes out of that with the Celtics. They'll figure it out. I don't even know that he's going to stay. I don't know why Houston would keep him.
I think they're buying him out.
It's got to, I would assume that's got to be coming. Yeah, I would be shocked, but yeah, let's see, where that goes, moving forward, with this one. So, all right, ready to go to the next one?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. Right, the next one. All right, so small trade, but a fun one. Suns reacquire Torrey Craig, second straight trade deadline. They've done that. And they send out Jalen Smith and a future second-round pick to the Pacers. Jalen Smith, no future with the Suns. They declined his rookie scale team option. They have DeAndre Ayton, JaVale McGee, and Bismack Biyombo in front of him in the rotation. Frank Kaminsky, if healthy, also in front of Smith in the rotation. So nothing really there. Torrey Craig comes in, though. Another switchable wing with some size for the Suns. He played moments for them in the playoffs. So I can't I can't not like this trade for the Suns. I think this was, a good get for them. For the Pacers, they get a look at Smith. If he pops, they are restricted. They can only pay him the amount of his declined option, which is about 4.6 million, if I
Mhm.
remember correctly. But that might be enough to keep him. Give him another deal if he pops a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a ton to add here. I think it just gives the Suns more wing depth. I was surprised they didn't keep him in the offseason, so I think this is a fine get for them and gives them another. Can't have enough wings in the NBA. Gives them another wing
Nope.
as they gear up
Yeah.
for another deep playoff run here, and then Jalen Smith worth a shot, and you get a second rounder, so no problem from the Pacers either.
All right, our next few are going to all involve the Washington Wizards. We'll do the little one first. Aaron Holiday
Mm-hmm.
traded to the Suns. A little bit of cap stuff. He went into the disabled player exception that they had for Dario Saric, so that's why you get those if you can, if a player's going to be out. So Aaron Holiday in there gives him another backup guard. Cameron
Sure.
Payne's been a little slow to return from injury, and Elfrid Payton's not very good. So that's a good get for the Suns to get Aaron Holiday. To complete that acquisition, they had to waive Abdel Nader, wing, he's been okay at times, but he's been hurt. The kind of medium, so that was the little
Yeah.
one. The medium trade the Wizards did was Montrezl Harrell sent to the Charlotte Hornets, manifesting something that they'd been speculated about for felt like
Yeah.
years, that he would
Mm-hmm.
go to the Hornets. For Ish Smith and Vernon Carey, this was a get out of the get out of the Harrell business. We're just clearing out some front court morass here between a whole bunch of different guys, and Ish Smith comes back and gives us a point guard, and Vernon Carey is a big we can maybe take a look at. Why did they need a point guard? Because they traded the other one away in the big deal, which go watch the live show, or if you don't want to watch the whole thing and look for on Trevor's Twitter. He tweeted this out
Mm-hmm.
of our reaction, because this one broke us. This was,
The
I think we'd
Porzingis.
been on
Yep.
for a couple hours, and it kind of broke us. But Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans for Kristaps Porzingis, and the ever important future second round pick that went there. But let's do the Wizards side of this first. Dinwiddie wasn't working out.
Yeah.
Bertans had been bad. I kind of didn't like it at first. I've kind of come around to why not
Yeah.
if you're Washington.
You-
I don't think it hurts at all.
They did. They didn't want the things they gave up.
Yeah.
And I think they got, and again, we can say the best ability is availability, and Kristaps Porzingis is rarely available. Sure, that's fair. But
Mm-hmm.
what's the cost here for getting him?
Yeah.
You gave up stuff you didn't really want, and you
Yep.
got a guy whose ceiling is higher than either of the players that you gave up. I don't have a problem with
Combined.
it. What's that?
Yeah. Combined.
Combined, yeah. So
Yeah.
I have no problem with the Wizards, and the Wizards got a pick on top of the second rounder. So, so no problems with it from the Wizard side. I get it. I think it's a worthwhile gamble. Again, they were probably sitting there looking at this thing and thinking, well, why not? Why not? Why not? What would stop us
I
from doing this? To me, it's just worst case he doesn't
look at it
play,
as
and okay.
This one won't negatively hurt your future at
Mm-hmm.
all, and it can only help
Yep.
it. It's weird because it's the players involved and how much money's involved, but it is almost kind of a no risk situation if you're the Wizards. Like you said, you gave up two guys you didn't want. Now Dallas's side of this, you got to be hoping Spencer Dinwiddie figures it out, gets back to the guy he was before the most recent ACL
Mm-hmm.
injury, because he was pretty good. And my guess is Dallas will put him on second units and say, kind of do your thing. You're going to play when Luka needs to sit. Maybe you'll play a little bit with him, but you're going to play when he needs to sit. You've got that 10, 15 minutes to kind of be the guy. Do your thing. And Spencer Dinwiddie has thrived when that's been his role at times in the NBA. So that's the optimist in me. The optimist in me says maybe Davis Bertans figures it out and finds that shooting stroke, because that's the only way that contract becomes even remotely
Yeah, that's a bad
salvageable,
one.
because it's a mess if not. So that's the challenge with him. But if he can find his shooting stroke again, then you're fine. And kind of from the Mavs side, this is not a no production loss trade, but it's a minimal production loss trade because Porzingis is never healthy. The joke, I wish I could remember who made it, is, yeah, they call him the unicorn because he's very rarely actually seen. It made me, I died laughing when it was yesterday. I heard it. I still laugh today. But I mean, yeah, just move on, right? I think this is a new front office turning the page from the old front offices. Trade, we're gonna move on. We're gonna do something different.
I get it in that sense. Again, I don't. It maybe did when he comes in and he's able to figure things out. I think he showed flashes when Beal was not on the floor for Washington. So okay, and then Davis Bertans, maybe he just needs a new location in order to find his shooting stroke, and that's again he is probably as much as anybody in the NBA. His value is tied to his percentages, so that's going to be critical. I wonder how much of this was just fatigue. They were tired of listing him on the injury report. I don't know. They were running out of ink from continually printing his name on the injury report. But in any event, they decided that they were done with the Kristaps Porzingis business and they were going to move on. It's not what I would have looked for if I'm the Mavs and I'm moving on. I probably would have looked for a stronger return. If I was the Mavs, I wouldn't have done it. I can say that I wouldn't.
We heard that Dragic thing out there, which would have been Dragic and something else going to Dallas. I wonder what Toronto wanted Dallas to put in there. I'm guessing it was a first round pick or something, to go there. And if you're the Mavs, I mean, you already owe a first round pick to the Knicks to get Porzingis. Paying another one to get off him, that's not very good business. All right, couple rapid fire news things, just real quick if we can. I promise I'm not trying to pick at you, here with a throw salt in the wound, but Chris Haynes reported that the Lakers and Rockets, it was on the table, that the Westbrook for John Wall, but the Lakers are going to have to send that 2027 first. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. We're both in agreement why it just, it didn't make sense.
No, that's
with that. There was, other deals, as you mentioned, that were out there that kind of fell apart. And if you're the Lakers, just regroup with what you got. Hit the buyout for market for a couple guys who maybe fit a little better that can contribute, move on. Now get it right this summer. Figure out what you got to do.
Yeah, I was totally fine with that. That wasn't picking at me at all because I agreed. I said, no, you're not doing that if you have to add in the first round pick. I do want to add in something though. That was kind of funny. Came from today's media session. Russell Westbrook had this quote.
I know where you're going.
And it's great. It's great. So he's been dealing with lower back soreness, tightness, whatever. Missed his first game. And of course, it was the eve of the trade deadline. So everybody was like, oh, wait, he's not playing. Does that mean he's in a trade? Because that's what we do. He said that the reason why he's got back tightness is because he's not used to sitting down for long stretches. And he's been benched by the Lakers in the fourth quarter recently and overtime and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was a great way to kind of lighten the mood by Russ.
Yeah,
and,
100%.
Yeah, well played.
Yeah, lean into it. Try to have a little bit of fun with it now, right? It's, go. All right, the Nets waived DeAndre Bembry. That was needed to be done to do that 3-for-2 deal with the Sixers. Bembry will get interest because he was playing a rotation role for the Nets. He'll catch on with somebody, I assume, decent size for a wing. He's actually shot it quite well this year too. This is kind of big though, with some of the savings they maybe got ish out of the Porzingis deal. The Mavs inking Dorian Finney-Smith to a 4-year contract extension, which will be for the max that they can give him. He's going to get, oddly enough, I named it after his new teammate, but the Dinwiddie, which is the max you can extend a guy for who makes under the league's average salary. So, yeah, let's see where that goes. With that one,
teams pay for 3 and D wings.
Other just injury updates because I think these are yeah, 100%. You're spot on that. Yep, they absolutely do. Another thing too is it takes yet another decent free agent out of this free agent class. It is so bad. I was doing work on it this morning. It's really, really terrible. Despite that, listen to Front Office Show because there'll hopefully be trades to break down then. A couple injury updates because these are big ones. Chicago Bulls, Taurus Karnisovich. Bulls did nothing at the trade deadline. Didn't do a trade. We kind of beat up on them a little bit for that, so maybe they should have. Part of that though was Patrick Williams is going to play again. He didn't give a timeline or anything like that, but said Patrick Williams will return. That's huge for the Bulls who need depth there. But then today, Tim Connolly of the Denver Nuggets said Jamal Murray, that was expected, but he also thinks Michael Porter Jr. will play again as well. and that's huge for the Nuggets. These guys, in effect, become your trade deadline acquisitions because
Right.
you didn't do the Nuggets did the Bryn Forbes deal, which has been really good for them. He's played well, but that's what these are your big acquisitions where you didn't have to give up anything. So, that's a lot of fun there to see what comes with those guys. But I think that's the big news. Other stuff will filter out here over the weekend. Now we're starting to get the here's what really happened at the trade deadline stories from all across the league, and we'll dive into those and parse through them as we go, and we'll start to see teams fill out some of these roster spots. The Celtics signed Sam Hauser and Luke Cornett to deals to fill out 2 of their 5 open roster spots that they have, which is just absurd, at this point. So they just cap nerd stuff. They had to sign 2 guys just to have them tonight before they could even go into the game. So yeah, so we'll see where that all goes here. But yeah, it's trade deadline behind us. It's buyout season.
And we get to get into that next week, buyout season, and we're heading into a Super Bowl weekend. So I'm ready for it. In fact, let's finish with
let's
this.
Do it.
Who's winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah. All right. So my heart says Bengals because my wife is from Cincinnati and grew up a Bengals fan. One of my best friends in the whole world is a Rams fan. So I kind of win either way because I don't really care since the Patriots aren't in it. So my main rooting interest is for a good game, some funny commercials. But I'm going to go Bengals. I'm feeling it. I don't have a lot to base that on. Here's my thing. It's either going to be Bengals close or Rams big. That's my thought. But I'll go Bengals close.
I'm a little biased here. Obviously, being from Southern California, the Rams now being back. They were there when I was really young, and then they left. Now they're back, and of course, as part of our network, we have a Rams site. So I'm going with the Rams. I'm going with them. I'm fingers crossed. Hopefully, they can get it done. One of my good friends is a longtime Lions fan, so he's pulling for Matthew Stafford. I would like to see the Rams get the job done and bring it home for LA. So I will go Rams in that. And but yeah, I mean, like you though, I try to be pretty neutral when it comes to football. Football is the one sport where I don't really have a team. Like I don't live and die with any particular team. I try to be able to just enjoy the league as opposed to most other sports. So I like you. I'm just hoping above all else we get a good game. We don't get one of these like defense grinded out 7-6 games or something like that.
Yeah.
And we get some
like that Pats Rams Super Bowl from a few years ago. I was, even as a Patriots fan who left happy, I was just like, ugh. Like,
and I'd like to see some great commercials and a great halftime show, which is really intriguing.
Yeah. Yep. And eat good food all day. No calories on Super Bowl Sunday.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show. Don't forget to turn on notifications as well. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll see you on Monday. Till then, stay safe and see ya.